perfect example of how British television is different from the US is a show referred to as Loose Women. Now, Loose Women is very similar to The View here in the US. It's basically a panel of women who talk about a bunch of different topics. Usually they're frivolous topics, but recently they discussed a musician by the name of Chrissie Hynde, I should say, who was the founder and also a performer from The Pretenders, who talked about her sexual assault from when she was 21. And during her interview, she made it seem as though she blames victims of sexual assault and rape in certain cases. Now, in response to that story, Loose Women decided to ask their audience a question, a poll question. And that question was, is it ever a woman's fault if she is raped? Now, that question has led to an investigation by a regulatory committee within the UK, right? And they make sure that certain content on television isn't violent or isn't, inciting violence or isn't causing any type of harm to those who are watching it. Okay, so let me tell you what Chrissie Hynde had to say, and then we'll kind of delve deeper into this story. So the sexual assault question was prompted by the new memoir from Pretender singer Chrissie Hynde, who partially blames herself for her own rape at the hands of a biker gang when she was 21. She said that one can't paint yourself into a corner and then say, whose brush is this? You have to take responsibility. I mean, I was naive. They're motorcycle guys. If you play with fire, you get burnt. It's not any secret, is it? So that's what she said, and that was a highly controversial interview. That's only a small part of the interview. She also kind of talked about women who might dress too provocatively in public, and she essentially said, if you dress provocatively, then yeah, people are going to try to rape you.
And I think she said that she had been dressing provocatively,
She had been dressing provocatively. She should have known better. There was a lot of, blaming herself in that story. And so as a result, this show decided to ask its own audience, well, what do you think? Do you ever think it is a victim's fault for getting raped? And people in the UK lost their minds over that question, which this story is so interesting because I feel like in the United States, people would ask that question and it wouldn't be considered as provocative. What do you think?
Well, in what way do you think? You think, oh, that's just a thing you could debate?
Yes.
I think that the results would be extremely similar to what...
I think the results would be similar. So let me tell you what the results of the poll were before it was taken down. According to The Guardian, 87.85% of Loose Women viewers said rape is not the woman's fault. And I think the same type of response would probably happen in the United States as well. But the fact that they got so much backlash for asking that question, I think opens up an interesting conversation.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I definitely think... maybe we can come up with an example where this isn't the case, but I think that we are now used to, in America, almost anything can be discussed on TV. Not everything can be shown on TV. We're super prudish when it comes to sexuality being shown on TV in comparison to, say, violence or whatever. Like people say that you can only show a woman's boobs if they're being blown up by a bomb or something. Then it's okay, but not in the sexual context. But in terms of just conversation, I don't know, our political talk shows are generally people yelling at each other and calling each other the worst possible names. Hell, Trump's speeches are worse than most of the speech that goes on in British TV shows. So I think that we, perhaps to our credit, allow ourselves to discuss most things.
So I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to discuss controversial topics like that, even if the starting point is a ridiculous question, right? So I consider that a ridiculous question because no, it is not a rape victim's fault for getting raped.
Yes.
Ever, right? Ever. I don't care. Don't talk to me about, oh, well, she was at a party and she was drinking too much. She should have known better. No, you are not allowed to rape someone and take advantage of them when they're in a vulnerable state. I don't care if it's a man, I don't care if it's a woman, rape is rape, and it's never acceptable to blame the victim in that case. However, I also don't believe in shutting down conversations. So there might be people out there who do believe that in some cases it's a rape victim's fault for getting raped. And those people might need to be educated on that topic. And they'll never be educated on that topic unless you have a very open and honest discussion about it.
Yeah. Well, I think... So, first of all, you can't say... I didn't like what she said about her past at all because it's saying, well, they're motorcycle guys, so they have to rape people. That doesn't make any sense. It's saying that, oh, they have no responsibility. They're not responsible for what they do. It's all on me, which is, of course, ridiculous. But I think that we get mixed up. We take the word, what is it, if it's her fault, and we try to ascribe like moral responsibility there. Like you can expose yourself to risk. It doesn't mean you deserve something. I think that that's what, like the 13% who are saying it is her fault, I think it's the certain number of crazy people that you probably see in comment sections who are like looking for people to suffer because they act in a way that you don't like.
Yeah.
I mean, you could lock yourself in your home and have food brought to you, and you would have no risk of any number of violent crimes being perpetrated against you. If you go out, you have a higher risk. It doesn't mean you deserve bad things to happen to you. Those are two different things that we lump up in fault, and I think that that's what makes it seem like a worse discussion than possibly it could be.
Right. The onus is not on the victim, right? The onus is on the person who actually committed the sexual assault or the rape. And
they're the ones who chose to do it.
Exactly.
Yes.
So to say, oh, well, this person, put themselves in a risky situation and therefore it's her fault or his fault, that's absolutely ridiculous. And you can't blame the victim because at the end of the day, the person who committed the rape was the rapist. It wasn't the victim that was raped.
Yeah, you can, like from what she's saying about her past, you can blame her for other things. Like if she's getting drunk and going on motorcycles, she's doing drugs and stuff like that, you're exposing yourself to all sorts of risks. But when you're talking about a thing that a person has to do to you, it is the person's fault. Right.
And see, look, that's the reason why I don't want to shut down questions like that or conversations like that, because what we're having right now is an open and honest conversation about it. And I think that poll question might have been asked by some television station in the US and it wouldn't get as much backlash, which is why I found this so interesting. When it comes to European media, they're very open to things that we're closed off to, right? So there's a lot more talk about nudity or even images of nudity and frank discussions about sexuality that I feel like in the US we're prudish about. But then when it comes to things like this, they like freak out and they want to censor it.
That's interesting that they were trying, though.
Right, it is interesting that they were trying. And also, I should note exactly what's being cited as the reason for investigating the show. So there is a policy in the UK, let me tell you what it is. Programs must not include material, whether in individual programs or in programs taken together, which, taking into account the context, condones or glamorizes violent, dangerous, or seriously antisocial behavior and is likely to encourage others to copy such behavior. I'm not sure that poll question falls under this category, but the investigation is ongoing and I guess we'll see how it all turns out. They've already taken the poll down. They've taken that portion of their conversation.
Clipped it.
I think so, yeah. So, I mean, I was looking for it, I couldn't find it. So it's just an interesting way of juxtaposing media in the United States and Britain.
I mean, whether they should have that law or not, it is interesting. Like you could test it. You could have like polled the audience the question, then had them watch the segment, and then theoretically, if you saw that a higher percentage said it was her fault afterward, then to some extent it did apparently condone it. I mean, that's an actual testable hypothesis that you could have there. Now, I heard a conversation in the studio. I don't know if it was specifically about this, but you could say one reason not to have a conversation like this is similar to why we don't like on CNN, where they'll have
the climate change.
The climate change. You say, oh, here's a person who says it's a hoax, and here's a person who doesn't, is because simply allowing a crazy idea to be discussed gives the veneer of like that it's plausible.
I love
it's on TV.
I love that you brought up that example because it's true. I mean, when you start a debate about climate change with the first question being, do you believe that climate change is a man-made issue, right? Your starting off point is already ridiculous because there's already consensus among scientists that it is man-made and we need to do something to mitigate it immediately. However, with a news organization like CNN, they're unwilling, in most cases, at least the cases that I've seen, to differentiate between fact and fiction, right? So you'll have someone go on there and they'll claim that it's not man-made and CNN won't call them out.
Exactly,
Whereas in my scenario, a question could be given, right? And it might be a stupid question like, is rape ever the victim's fault? And then it is your job as a member of the media to tell the audience what the truth is. You want to use it as an educational experience. The question itself might sound dumb, but it could be used as a way to open up a good dialogue about a very serious topic.